So, hello everyone, good morning. I know this is always a hard day because it's the second day and it's the morning. And my presentation at the beginning, and for the ones that were inscripted in these sessions earlier, was actually just called choosing the most suitable technology instead of all of these large sentences. The thing was, whenever I talked with Patrick about the content, he ended up changing this to be, I think, a little bit more attractive. Because and going from this to my first point, I think to know where we are is attractive. So it's impossible to think about either any technology or any environment if I don't know where I am. This concept about VUCA that I'm sure that everyone in this room is super aware of is 40 years old or around that. So it came out of the Cold War and it was already a little bit volatile, uncertain, whatever the acronyms give us. The thing is, it was not enough for what we are living now after the pandemic. Most of the futurologists and the ones that were actually studying these concepts and changing them, they were putting on the pandemic all the onus of the change from VUCA to BANI. The thing is, if we go a little bit in a deep dive and we see what we have been living for the last 5 years, and I'm not going to put it in the last 2.5 for the pandemic, but for the last 5 years, this was already appearing. The way we think about the world, the way we work on a daily basis, the way we change our technology, our mindset, our targets, it's much more incomprehensible, either for the others as it is for us. So the way we check the world, the way internet impacted the world, it's totally different. I know that internet is of course not changing in the last 5 years, but the way people has literacy to use it and to change the world around with internet actually changed in the last 5 years. One of the things I was just commenting right now, we have already always these sessions in online and of course offline. It's not normal that we think about it in just one of the worlds. It's already something new. So whenever we think about something that generates us anxiety, that is totally brittle, that is fragile in a sense of existence, that is non-linear, that is of course due to all of these incomprehensible, we think about the world today. How does that make you feel? Does it generate anxiety as you all work in technology, or is it something quite normal? These are things and questions that I kind of have them in a daily basis with all the teams and with all the people that we work in the projects. Because the trend of change is actually a normalized trend. So changing is normal nowadays, right? Putting our foot in somewhere that is not that dense or systematic or linear, it's totally normal. And that new normal, not the new normal from the pandemic, but this new normal of the way we use technology has to be totally intrinsic in all the evaluations we do on a daily basis. So I cannot choose technology or think about all the plans if I don't know where I am. So if we move forward in this world, that we accept that change is the new normal, how can we live with the second part, which is we are all expecting technology to solve our problems, which has been a reality until now. Think about antibiotics, biotech solving the highest number of deaths in all our history. But technology, it's arriving at this point. So it's tending to be exponential, mathematically and conceptually. So how can a human being that doesn't have this exponential mindset and of course has this brittle, anxious mindset and a non-linear thought, how can we adapt to and do the match of those two perspectives? I know this all seems very conceptual, and I really like to start from the concept and then deep dive to our reality. Because if we don't think about the challenges that we're having, we tend to create things and things over and over again, because all of us in this room will think that we are inventing the new wheel. So let's keep on this. Again, third point, 21st century. It's exactly the same in number of innovation and inventions of the 20,000 years of progress, if we progress at the same pace as we did until the 19th century. So how can these human beings living in this changing world, having news every day, having innovation and inventions that most of them are not coming to innovation's point all the time, stop and stare and select things so that they can really go to the field and change the world? This is a challenge. So everyone that is here in this room is already a hero, because leaving this world and really doing the change in the middle of the change, it's not easy. Thanks to this, we have actually probably what we can discuss here, and probably you have different perspectives, but 3 aspects or technologies or capabilities that are definitely changing what we are doing. One, of course, is portability, the capacity to take with us all the time whatever we need. Then, artificial intelligence, and I'm going to use the word in this sense, but more specifically deep learning. And, of course, the cloud, because we are humans, and humans tend to save everything that might be important for the future. So we save a huge amount of data all the time, every day. So if we have these 3 of them together, most of the technologies that we were listing here actually in the last day and that we know that are really changing our today moment are dependent on one of these, 2 of these, or 3 of these. And then we can actually move a little bit further. This is probably the era of the most interesting impact of technology, because we are starting to mix them. We are no longer using one until it is drilled down, but we are moving to using 2 or 3 or 4 together and reaching really interesting things like we are assisting now in digital medicine. I was listening to some presentations yesterday that really made my day, like how can you build a e-hospital if you don't put all of them together? It's impossible, right? And we are now being able to do this. Another thing, how do you look to proteomics, radiomics, which is also a very interesting challenge, or genomics, and not think about the precision and the personalized medicine? We are really now reaching that point. We used to call in the 20th century, in the last century, personalized and precision medicine when we thought about adapting a doses of a medicine, for instance. A drug doses, adaptation was precision medicine. Now it's just shocking, this sentence, right? So this change in the mindset is exactly what I was talking in the beginning. And then when we think about how can we mix all of these together and really change the way we approach a patient, for instance, it is a reality now in some places in the world. But it still is not yet a reality for managing a continent or the world. So this is still in a very, very, very changing moment, which is probably the specific moment where we can impact the future. Then all of this is dependent on what? Data, right? And yesterday I was actually having a very interesting conversation with my colleague that is here, Luis, that I'm going for sure to refer him quite a lot, because he's a very, very interesting and conceptual person in this point, which is almost all of our data sets are not ready to be data sets. They are ready to be groups of data, not really good sets of data that we can use. So this is a problem that we're having at the moment, we had in the past, and for sure we're going to have it much strongly in the future. So we don't know how to aggregate and normalize data from now on. We tend just to use what we have until now and hope for a new thing on the top of it so that we can have really good data sets. Because then analytics cannot run, and then I cannot have access to the users or engagement. I just have a lot of information somewhere there, not really good information. So think about it, this changing world with a lot of new technology coming out, being normal to being in change, having maybe 3 main technologies that are enablers for the other ones, starting to mix all the innovation and invention to reach something new, and then not having the data to make it happen. That's frustrating. At least it is for me. And then we start to have this all the modern thing and all the things around us that start to talk. And now I'm going to be a little bit disruptive maybe in my comments, but I have to, which is we tend to think about IoT and we love to put letters in the middle of it. So we love to say Internet of Medical Things or Internet of things. And that's something that doesn't make sense for the concept if you think about it. As what we want is to have things connected, information being in transit in between them. We don't want to have medical things or something other field things. They don't have to be from the medical world. They have to be from our daily basis world and to be useful for healthcare, for instance. So this Internet of Things, let's not change the concept in the basis and keep it like that, just Internet of Things. And that information in transit that is already, and it's going to be much more between a lot of different technologies or equipment that is going to facilitate our life, probably is going to be the fourth pillar of all of those technologies, of those three, that is the facilitator. And this is going to be possible, why? Because we process data. And how can we, human beings, with a limited world, limited time, process a lot of information? We can't. So, of course, artificial intelligence is playing and is going to play much a very important field. I don't want to go deep diving here because I'm sure that everyone here probably will, 90% of you will explain that better than me, maybe. But there's two things that I want to refer here and that I want us to think, which is we can classify it either with a very old mindset, but either for what I want to do with artificial intelligence or the capacity of this artificial intelligence. And this is very important because think about it, 80 years ago or 50 years ago, this classification is a little bit later, so 50 years ago, we wanted and we thought about it in two different mindsets. Either what I wanted to do with artificial intelligence or what artificial intelligence would be able to do, right? And 50 years after, we are still right in the middle. We are still in general AI, maybe touching a little bit, going a little bit further for strong AI, but still in general AI. So whenever we say that AI is mature, is it? It is not. So we are still right in the middle, going and going to reach the exponential capacity. We are still not there. So let's think about it. What can we do in the future with this? It's impossible not to think about the most relevant and the most developed parts of AI. And I just brought some examples because 5 years ago, before the BANI version that I was telling you, we had a lot of examples of these in the most developed centers in the world. And when I look now, I have them in my country, I have them in my hospital, I have them everywhere. So if we look about the time gap, it's no longer a time gap, huge time gap like we had before. It's just 2-3 years, 5 at most. So what is going to happen in more 5 years? Just to give you a few examples that we are already either working on it or using it too, and these are examples from outside because they are of course qualified and already evaluated and have data, has outputs of the usage. We don't have them yet, but we know that deep learning is core in image analysis and diagnosis and creating images, right? New images so that I can train algorithms in a better way. Then we also know that natural process language is playing a very important role because, at least because us doctors hate to write things that other people can understand. So we like to put it in a very short versions that no one else understands except us or someone that works with us. So how can we make robots understand better and organize information, clustering information so that I can then use it? This is happening already also in our hospitals that I'm going to talk about it a little bit further. And again, how can I make it to a way to improve also the way I collect data? Not only to evaluate the data that is already there, but how can I teach, between commas, our doctors to write down and to share data in a way that we can then use it? Then, of course, in drug discovery and this concept of precision and unique people in medicine, it's very interesting that we can expand with digital therapeutics, for instance, the way we do clinical trials. And this is already something we do on a daily basis. We are not so much sensible maybe for it whenever we are not engaged on them, but this is already a reality of our days. And this is also used for apps. Whenever we think about it in technology, in medical devices, in healthcare, we can also think about it, because before going to the field, they are of course evaluated a lot, and some of them already with digital therapeutics. And others, when we join an app, either technology, medical device, when we think about software and a medication, a drug, we can already have a lot of very interesting papers with digital therapeutics, where my sample is expanded just with technology. Sometimes going from a dozen people to having 1,000 just with technology, this expansion, and with validation with this expansion. So one very interesting example that has exactly 8 years old, just for us to have an idea that this 5 last years is just for all the world, but some places, of course, were the first ones. This is a protein. I think it's something that probably some of you here are familiar with, others not that much. So let me just share with you that proteins have very specific conformation, so a way they are folded, and to have a specific function, right? And sometimes the same protein folded in a different way gives it another function. Other ones are just not useful. Like if they are not folded in the right way, they are inactive. And this is a very challenging thing, how to fold a protein, how to make it work. How can we do it normally? In a lab. So people have to study to be able to be in a lab, so that they have a lot of different technologies to be able to fold it in a specific way and make it useful. What is this? This is an image from a startup called Foldit, that probably some of you know it, which since that 8 years ago, they started to make it online, like a game. Anyone could subscribe this platform and fold proteins. Just to give you an idea, this specific protein I was showing you was a protein that to reach the fold specific conformation, the specific folded version, to be useful for the specific thing they wanted to do, it took 15 years in a lab to reach. When they put it in online, just to make it as a comparison, they got it folded in the right version in 10 days. Now, who did it? A mathematician. How would ever in the past a mathematician go to a lab to fold a protein? It wouldn't happen. So this cross information between fields, this multidisciplinary approach that we are always talking about, is now possible even in a click away. So this is probably one of the best examples I found in all my life around this subject, that shows how you can pick people that would never go to a specific place to do it, to do your job, for instance. How would another person without my background look to my job and do it in a different way? That's probably one of the best exercises that we can do in our daily basis, but furthermore, that we can ask others to do. And technology on that point helped a lot. Another, clinical decision support systems and predictive analysis. And this predictive analysis I must underline, because we still call prediction and predictive analysis and predictive algorithms to things that are not that much predictive. They are reactive a lot. Sorry for this sound, but they are not that much predictive that we can have in the future. But we have clinical decision supporting systems everywhere. When we prescribe, when we have drug delivery, whenever we think about the hospital, it is everywhere. It's embedded everywhere. And most of the professionals are not even aware of. They notice the notifications and so on, but they don't know most of the times. When we did this search 2-3 years ago, which was, we asked a lot of healthcare professionals if they have artificial intelligence in their daily basis. And we did this questionnaire to 3,200 people, and more than 72% answered that they didn't. They were not exposed to artificial intelligence in their daily basis. Just for you to have an idea, and 98% of them, except 2% of them that were only in private small rooms that they give consultations, all of them, of the rest, 98% were exposed to artificial intelligence, but they were not conscious about that. seems to be really basic, but the thing is we are not aware of something that it was always there. And this new generation in terms of healthcare professionals is much less sensitive to having or not having a specific technology there, which makes me jump to another question, which is how can I improve something if I'm not aware that this is there? So COVID-19 was probably one of the easiest moments for anyone that is a futurologist or someone that studies technology in a daily basis, exactly because we had technology everywhere, doing whatever we couldn't, and with a very low impact on legal aspects. So one of the most interesting things about COVID was the mix of technologies. For the first time, we were sharing in open source all the 3D printing algorithms or the 3D printing, the information that we could share so that anyone else in the world could do it like we were doing in a specific hospital or in a specific unit. And we had a lot of people outside healthcare working for healthcare. And if we check, and there's a very interesting paper, I was willing to bring it to you, but it's still in review. That makes this comparison on how do you apply technology, how technology was able to jump from the concept to the field in the last 5 years and in the previous ones. And these 3 last years, 2.5, were incredible in the number of patents that jumped to the field when they were related to things that were useful to COVID-19. So this was probably one of the best natural labs where a different spectrum of technologies actually jumped together and were used, tested, adapted, and upgraded. So there's a lot of things around us that normally we tend to deal with, but we don't stop to review them. And this is really something that is going to impact for sure the next 5 years. So, and I stop here by now, just to now jump to our reality. What I wanted from this first part of my presentation was not to share information that I'm certain that most of you have and are aware of, but just to make us stop and go to the same page of the book and having the same mindset at this moment. Because of these BANI worlds, if it's so brittle, anxious, non-linear, incomprehensible, most of the times the same people in the same room focusing in the same technology are going actually, it's everything good. It's really a dark slide. Normally, we tend not to have the same perspective about things because of these non-linear thoughts. So I was trying to put everyone in the same, let's say, page, boat, whatever we want to think about it in this morning. But just to now, so that you can share with me what we were doing in Lusíadas. Lusíadas is actually a group of 6 hospitals, and 5 outpatient clinics. We have 5 private hospitals and 1 PPP, which is a private-public partnership. And we have all the, by now I'm super proud of this, all the seals of quality that we can ask for. We have JCI, Joint Commission International validation of our main hospitals, and we are by now, thanks to this sir that I was telling you about, our Chief Information Officer, we have him stage 7 in 3 hospitals. Actually, there are just 9 in Europe, and we have 3 of them in our group, which is something that made us really happy, because for the ones that are not so familiar with HIMSS, it's a non-profit American entity that evaluates hospitals in the sense of how can you use technology to improve the care. So we are really happy to have this external certification on how we use technology to improve actually the life of our patients. So this is a nice environment if you think about, because we are the 3rd largest group in Portugal, so we're not that big, to make and to improve and to apply new technologies to healthcare. Because we are not that large enough so that we cannot change things, but we are not so small that we cannot do quite large investments so that we have some improvements. So let me just share with you. Again, sorry for the Portuguese part on top, haven't seen it. And I review this quite many times. So just for you to have an idea, when we started this new challenge to rethink how we were doing care 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago, we knew that innovation for us was much more about experience than about bringing things new and plug them in. So we were certain that from things and technology, we definitely wanted to move to people's experience. But we had a very normal problem, which is we knew that we were already in a trigger moment where physical and digital were starting to mix together. This was actually previous to COVID. And we had some plans on doing different things in our ecosystem, like doing an omni-channel, having a new app, a new portal. So this omni-channel thing, but of course with different entry points. And this was the challenge. And then whenever we had the roadmap really clearly designed, COVID came. So things got brittle again, anxious from the team got anxious, and of course our roadmap was changed. How did we change it? We actually did this to the roadmap. So we compressed it, and in a much shorter period of time, we ended up jumping to our later stages of the roadmap. And we started from what we think is the beginning, which is to whom we want to generate this new experience. So we started to design our personas. We were really curious to listen to people that worked inside of the organization and outside of the organization, like people from our clients, other people that has no relationship with Lusíadas. How would they define the normal client of healthcare in this context, the private healthcare in Portugal? So we got to 10 personas or group of personas, like this family. I brought it in Portuguese exactly the way we designed it. This is like the first image, and then we had a lot of deep dive in these families and personas that were designed. They just don't have the astrological card, but they have everything else. We know what they like to do, how is their day, everything, because we cannot design anything, either apply technology to someone that we don't know, right? So we started from this. And then we knew that we wanted to put, of course, the patient in the center, cliché, right? And we wanted to have predictive capacity. And this was our smart health mindset for the future, or the near future, we hoped. And of course, we reached this maturity in very specific projects. And of course, as a whole, we are still in the roadmap, right? In the new roadmap. So just to share with you, our vision was actually that smart health was a real-time decision making capacity and the predictive capacity, and of course in a very collaborative environment so that we can iterate all the time and generate new impacting solutions. And the e-hospital, our last line on the top right, was something that we didn't develop until the end yet. So like a normal unit. So when you think about a physical unit, you build it, you certified it, and then you start to use it, right? In the e-hospital, it's a funny thing because we can go brick on brick and still using it all the time along the way, iterate, change, and show a new version. So this is probably one of the most interesting things for our team, which is the mindset on the way we build something, right? So we started with the very basic. COVID was there. We had these video consultations, or the concept of teleconsultations there, like in standby for quite a while, because we had a lot of issues regarding, of course, legal aspects, data protection, and so on and so forth. But of course, COVID said, sorry, we need it. So we jumped there. Then we launched this omni-channel, app that was part of the omni-channel concept project. That was actually a challenge. Why? Because the other two largest players in Portugal, they already have a new app. So they were, let's say, in the kilometer 50, and we were in the kilometer 0 specifically in the app. So we needed to jump to the 70 or to the 100 so that we were attractive enough. So it was a very interesting challenge. Good part, as we came after on that point, we could learn from the others, and besides that, we could use new technology that was already easier to apply and to be faster at this moment. So it was a really interesting moment. Then we went for 24/7 consultations, like teleconsultations for pediatrics and for adults. Then we needed a health line, which for Portuguese population is quite easy to understand because we have this 24/7 line that you can call with symptoms and so on. So we needed to have these inside of our ecosystem so that whenever a person is a little bit lost in the ecosystem, which happens, could have these nurses to support. So in May 2021, we launched. Then we had some projects to the society that one of them I'm going to refer, which is Todos por One for All, which was an app that was launched for 6 months. It came out of a partnership with a development system enterprise that in 7 days we launched this app, having 3 main functionalities. One was screening, using the information we had about COVID by the time, without, of course, with AI by the time, and then we had nurses and doctors answering questions whenever we classified as a yellow, so a doubted COVID. And they would iterate and deep dive. And then we had a bot answering questions. So basically like, what is COVID-19, or why do we need a negative pressure room for COVID-19? They were picking the information, of course, from the websites that were validated by the time, because literacy was an issue, of course, as you all know, in COVID, and it's still an issue. So we had almost 400,000 users in this period, and we won quite a nice group of prizes. But the most of all, we learned how our users navigated in the system and how our users navigated in the app. So this was a very interesting thing. Then we launched Lucy, which is our baby robot, a robot that uses natural process language and artificial intelligence so that it answers all our questions in a very humanized way. And then iterate our app, some solutions that were already developed in the house for doctors and for nurses, but also our Lusíadas service catalog, which I would like to share just for one reason, quick one, which is going back to my one of my first slides. Like, we didn't have our information available to many of the solutions, read it and jump it to the external users. So we had to create this platform in the middle so that we can aggregate and really have a catalog of what we have as offer. Now we are working with different solutions for telemonitoring in different sometimes in the same disease or in the same condition, but with different providers so that we can iterate, evaluate, and choose. And e-hospital is like an aggregation and output of some of these new solutions that we applied. And of course, our CRM that we are now, again, reviewing and rethinking, because information is everything. Then our co-design lab, which was born out of this COVID moment, with the objective, of course, to have innovation either inside in as outside in, meaning people from the outside of the organization helping us to find solutions for our challenges, or people from inside the organization. And overall, we listen a lot. We iterate a lot. We have groups of users that are actually our main critics and our main supporters, both of them, challenging, iterating, and evaluating all the things before coming out. And some of them already coming out. Second step, and almost finishing. The thing is, I just gave you a few of examples of what we have been doing and why we have been selecting this technology over time. The thing is, we only understand when we have the ecosystem fully not finished, because it's never finished, but working at least with some relationships between the solutions. Nevertheless, we know that this ecosystem might grow a lot, but if we don't invest in the part of business intelligence specifically for our predictive capacity, it's still going to be something very iterative, for sure, but at the same time very difficult to anticipate. So one of the things that we are looking for the future is exactly that. How can we put intelligence on the top of what we already have so that this smart health concept that I was sharing before turns to be a reality. And this is easier whenever we look to the past and we have the ability to connect the dots. It's a little bit harder when we look to the future and think of what we need there, what is going to be there. Either is blockchain going to make a difference? And I know that someone today is going to talk about that a lot. Either radiomics, how can we go from images to genomics it's just one step? These are things that are already there in the market. Do we want to apply them to our ecosystem? Are we able to do it? And this is our daily basis challenge. How can we mix technologies in a way that is really productive and positive for our ecosystem? So thank you very much for listening. And if I can be useful for any of you, please contact.